All right, we're in the Helicopter Flying Handbook, Chapter 8, Ground Procedures and Flight Preparations. This will be page 1 of 6. Introduction. Once a pilot takes off, it is up to him or her to make sound, safe decisions throughout the flight. It is equally important for the pilot to use the same diligence when conducting a pre-flight inspection, making maintenance decisions, refueling, and conducting ground operations. This chapter discusses the responsibility of the pilot regarding ground safety and around the helicopter when preparing to fly. Pre-flight. Before any flight, ensure the helicopter is airworthy by inspecting it in accordance to the Rotorcraft Flight Manual, the RFM, Pilot's Operating Handbook, POH, or other information supplied either by the operator or the manufacturer. Remember that it is the responsibility of the pilot in command, the PIC, to ensure the aircraft is in an airworthy condition. In preparation for flight, the use of a checklist is important so that no item is overlooked. Figure 8-1. Follow the manufacturer's suggested outline for both the inside and outside inspection. This ensures that all the items the manufacturer feels are important are checked. If supplemental equipment has been added to the helicopter, these procedures should be included on the checklist as well. Figure 8-1, the pilot in command is responsible for the airworthy condition of the aircraft and using checklists to ensure proper inspection of the helicopter prior to flight. Minimum equipment list, the MELs, and operation with inoperative equipment. Title 14 of the Code of Federal Regulations, 14 CFR, requires that all aircraft instruments and installed equipment be operative prior to each department. However, when the Federal Aviation Administration, the FAA, adopted the minimum equipment list, the MEL concept for 14 CFR Part 91 operations, flights were allowed with inoperative items as long as the inoperative items were determined to be non-essential for safe flight. At the same time, it allowed Part 91 operators without an MEL to defer repairs on essential equipment within the guidelines of Part 91. There are two primary methods of deferring maintenance on rotorcraft operating under Part 91. There are deferral precision of 14 CFR Part 91, Section 91.213D, and an FAA-approved MEL. The deferral provision of 14 CFR Section 91.213D is widely used by most pilot operators. Its popularity is due to simplicity and minimal paperwork. When inoperative equipment is found during pre-flight or prior to departure, the decision should be to cancel the flight, obtain maintenance prior to flight, determine if the flight can be made under the limitations imposed by the defective equipment, or to defer the item or equipment. Maintenance deferrals are not used for in-flight discrepancies. The manufacturer's RFM, POH, procedures are to be used in those situations. The discussion that follows is an example of a pilot who wishes to defer maintenance that would ordinarily be required prior to flight. If able to use the deferral provision of 14 CFR Section 91.213, the pilot determines whether the inoperative equipment is required by the type design of 14 CFR. If the inoperative item is not required and the helicopter can be safely operated without it, the deferral may be made. The inoperative item shall be deactivated or removed and an inoperative placard placed near the operative switch, control, or indicator. If deactivation or removal involves the maintenance, removal always does. It must be accomplished by certified maintenance personnel. For example, if the position lights installed equipment were discovered to be inoperative prior to the daytime flight, the pilot would allow the requirements of 14 CFR Section 91.213D. The pilot must then decide if the flight can be accomplished prior to night, when the lights will be needed. The deactivation may be a process as simple as the pilot positioning a circuit breaker to the off position, or as complex as rendering instruments or equipment totally inoperable. Complex maintenance tasks require a certificated and appropriately rated maintenance person to perform the deactivation. In all cases, the item or equipment must be placarded and operative. When an operator requests an MEL and a letter of authorization, LOA, is issued by the FAA, then the use of the MEL becomes mandatory for the helicopter. All maintenance deferrals must be accomplished in accordance with the accordance with the terms and conditions of the MEL and the operator generated procedures document. The use, this would be page 3, the use of an MAL for rotorcraft operated under Part 91 also allows the deferral of inoperative items or equipment. The primary guidance becomes the FAA-approved MEL issued to that specific operator and in-numbered helicopter. The FAA has developed Master Minimum Equipment List, Master MELs, for rotorcraft in current use. Upon written request by rotorcraft operators, the local FAA Flight Standards District Office, FSDO, may issue the appropriate make and model MEL along with the LOA and preamble. The operator then develops operations and maintenance O&M procedures from the master MEL. This master MEL and the O&M procedures now become the operator's MEL. The MEL and the LOA preamble and procedures document developed. The operator must be on board the helicopter when it's operated. The FAA considers an approved MEL to be supplemental type certificate STC issued to an aircraft by serial number and registration number. It therefore becomes the authority to operate that aircraft in a condition other than originally type certificated. With an approved MEL, if the position lights were discovered and operated prior to the daytime flight, the pilot would make an entry into the maintenance record or discrepancy record provided for that purpose. The item is then either repaired or deferred in accordance with the MEL. Upon confirming the daytime flight with inoperative position lights is acceptable in accordance with the provisions of the MEL, the pilot will leave the position light switch off, open the circuit breaker, or whatever action is called for the procedure document, and placard the position light switch as inoperative. There are exceptions to use of MEL for deferral. For example, should a component fail that is not listed in the MEL as deferrable, the rotor tachometer, engine tachometer, or cyclic trim, for example, then repairs are required to be performed prior to departure. If maintenance or parts are not readily available at that location, a special flight permit can be obtained from the nearest FSDO. The permit allows the helicopter to be flown to another location for maintenance. This allows an aircraft that may not currently meet applicable airworthiness requirements but is capable of safe flight to be operational under restrictive special terms and conditions attached to a special flight permit. Deferral of maintenance is not to be taken lightly, and due consideration should be given to the effect an inoperative component may have on an operation of a helicopter, particularly if the other items are inoperative. Further information regarding MELs and operations with inoperative equipment can be found in AC 91-67, Minimum Equipment Requirements for General Aviation Operations under FAR Part 91. We'll hold off there. That is page 3 of 6. That was page 3 of 6, Minimum Equipment List, the MELs, the Master MELs, and the operation of inoperative equipment. So we're going to go stay on page 3, but go to engine start and rotor engagement. See ya.